The president is accusing Democrats of treason as Republicans flail in their attempts to defend him from impeachment. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. After more than 2 years of serially abusing his power as president, using the office to enrich himself, welcoming the interference of foreign governments, and inflicting human rights abuses on migrant families, Donald Trump probably thought he got away with all of it. He was like Patrick Swayze at the end of Point Break, except instead of a cool-ass surfer, he looks like a guy who tried to ride a huge wave, fell off his board, and then just washed up on the beach. This afternoon, Trump spoke to the media in the Oval Office, and you can tell that he's totally out of ways to defend himself because now he just keeps insisting that he didn't do anything wrong on his call with the president of Ukraine.
When you have a whistleblower that reports things that were incorrect, as you know, and you probably now have figured it out, the statement I made to the president of Ukraine, a good man, a nice man, knew, was perfect. It was perfect.
I like how he just throws in, you probably have figured it out, like they're all on his side. Like, in Trump's mind, reporters are out there pounding the pavement, digging for clues, marching into their editor's office going, Chief, I got the scoop of the year. Put it on the front page. The call was perfect. Now reality is catching up with Trump as Democrats move forward with their impeachment inquiry, and support for impeachment rises in the polls. And in response to all that, Trump is predictably losing his mind.
The president leading his own defense on Twitter overnight, lashing out, saying that Adam Schiff should be tried for treason, even suggesting the possibility of civil war if he's impeached.
Trump even quotes a Fox News guest who predicted a, quote, civil war-like fracture would result from the inquiry and calls for Chairman Schiff to resign.
In addition, I want to meet not only my accuser, who presented second and third-hand information, but also the person who illegally gave this information, which was largely incorrect, to the whistleblower. Was this person spying on the U.S. president? Big consequences.
Representative Adam Schiff illegally made up a fake and terrible statement, pretended to be mine as the most important part of my call to the Ukrainian president, and read it aloud to Congress and the American people. It bore no relationship to what I said on the call. Arrest for treason?
Honestly, thank God he's a moron. He's threatening the collapse of American democracy, and he says it like he's offering hors d'oeuvres at a party. Can I get you a bacon-wrapped date, some arrest for treason, or maybe you'd like our Obama Netflix? But this is dangerous. The president is threatening arrest and imprisonment for people who dare to investigate his abuse of power. The only thing stopping our system from collapsing is that everyone just ignores him. We've all gotten to the point where we have to treat the president of the United States like a guy taking a in a subway car. At some point, everyone's just going to move to the other end of the country. By the way, the president accusing a sitting congressman of treason simply for investigating him is itself an impeachable offense. He keeps stacking offenses on top of impeachable offenses. He's making a Scooby sandwich of crimes. Scoop, we're about to get impeached. We gotta get out of here. It was a cartoon that aired when my writers were younger. And as Trump was melting down this weekend, the White House was dispatching allies to the Sunday shows to try to defend him. Let's start with the creepiest member of Trump's staff, White House Senior Policy Advisor Stephen Miller. Miller went on Fox News Sunday right after Fox reported that Trump had been in contact not just with his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, but with two other private attorneys to dig up dirt from Ukraine. Fox host Chris Wallace asked Miller why, if it was such a legitimate inquiry, Trump didn't go through official channels, and Miller had no answer.
Why did he use 3 private lawyers to get information on Biden from the Ukrainian government rather than go through all of the agencies of his government?
2 different points. Number 1.
How about answering my question? Stephen, I'm asking you a direct question. Why did the president use private attorneys rather than go to the State Department? If you don't know, that's an acceptable answer.
There's 2 issues that were brought up on the phone call.
I'm not asking 2 issues. Why did he do it?
Chris, I understand that you have your question. I have my answer. There's 2 issues that were brought up on the phone call.
You have your non-answer at this point.
Damn, Chris. Be careful. If you anger him too much, he'll sneak into your room at night, bite you on the neck, and turn you into whatever he is, which I guess is a hairless cat? Then there was Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, who went on CNN to repeat a bunch of debunked conspiracy theories about Joe Biden. Now, the short version of what you need to know here is that the Obama administration and most of the West called for a Ukrainian prosecutor to be fired because he wasn't doing enough to investigate corruption. That prosecutor was not investigating Biden's son at the time, yet Jordan kept repeating the lie anyway until CNN host Jake Tapper had enough.
He's getting paid $50,000, and then when the company that's paying him that money is under investigation, guess what? Daddy comes running to the rescue. The Vice President of the United States comes running
That's not
and
what
says,
happened, sir.
Fire that prosecutor.
Sir, that's not what happened.
I'm just telling you what happened. Joe Biden
No, you're
called
not.
up and said, fire this prosecutor or you're not getting
No,
in.
you're suggesting that Biden called for the prosecutor to be fired to protect his son. That's not what happened. Joe Biden was trying to get a prosecutor who was not pursuing corruption fired. And it was supported.
It's amazing the gymnastics you guys will go through to defend what. Do you really think the Vice President?
It's facts.
It's fun to see Jake Tapper tell an actual congressman this isn't gymnastics. What? It isn't? I was about to tell a lie while doing a handstand on a pommel horse. Sunday was filled with Republicans flailing in one interview after another because they have no convincing answers for the president's behavior. Of course, Rudy was in the middle of it, as he always is. Now, given that he was the key figure relaying information between Trump and Ukraine, today 3 different House committees subpoenaed him. On Sunday, Rudy was asked if he would comply with such a subpoena, and his answer, as usual, made no sense.
Are you going to cooperate with the House Intelligence Committee?
That is a question that has a lot of implications to it. Believe it or not, I'm an attorney.
I do not believe it. I think you are a bunch of body parts sewn together and brought to life in a laboratory, and maybe, just maybe, some of the body parts were from attorneys. But by far my favorite Republican dumb guy from the Sunday shows yesterday was House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who did an interview with 60 Minutes. McCarthy was asked about the notes from Trump's phone call with the president of Ukraine. Now, in these notes, the president of Ukraine expressed an interest in getting more military aid from the U.S., including anti-tank weapons called Javelins. And immediately after that, Trump said, I would like you to do us a favor, though. And when McCarthy was asked about that exchange, which seems like an obvious quid pro quo, he tried a very dumb defense that did not work.
What do you make of this exchange? President Zelensky says we are almost ready to buy more Javelins from the United States for defense purposes. And President Trump replies, I would like you to do us a favor, though.
Well, you just added another word.
No, it's
you said,
in
I'd
the
like
transcript.
you to do a favor, though?
Yes, it's in the White House transcript.
I mean, it's amazing. I love that his genius defense was you added a word. And it wasn't even true. Also, which word in that sentence does he think, if you took it out, would suddenly make it okay? My favorite part of the interview came next when 60 Minutes host Scott Pelley asked McCarthy how he planned to defend the president.
How do you expect the president's defense to roll out going forward?
The defense of what?
Well, there's an impeachment inquiry.
He's like a kid who's stumped during a spelling bee. Impeachment? Can you use it in a sentence? Impeachment, as in the president is about to go through impeachment. Okay, can you spell it? Trump and his allies can't defend their behavior because there's no defense. What happened here is very simple and obvious. The president asked for a quid pro quo. The White House tried to cover it up, and they got caught. That's it. So now Trump is just lying about the whistleblower whose report was deemed credible and urgent and corroborated by the notes from the call itself. Today, Trump tweeted the whistleblower knew almost nothing. Its secondhand description of the call is a fraud. Oh, so now you're suddenly concerned about secondhand information because you're the guy who tweeted an extremely credible source who's called my office and told me that Barack Obama's birth certificate is fraud. You just made that fake source up for a racist lie. Trump likes to think he's a whistleblower. That's why his lips always look like that. But in reality, he's just eating the whistle. It's pretty cool, actually, because now when I fart, it sounds like this. There's another one coming soon. In a way, we're lucky that these guys are incompetent morons because now, rather than sticking together and coming up with a coherent and believable defense, they're all pointing fingers at each other, trying to blame one another for what happened with Ukraine. Like Rudy. You know, the guy who always looks like he just woke up in the middle of every interview. I mean, look at him. Looks like an animatronic robot in Disney's Country Bear Jamboree who magically comes to life when you ask him a question. Now, last week, Rudy went on Fox News and said it was actually the State Department that instructed him to pressure Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden, even holding up his phone to show the calls from the State Department. And then on Thursday night, he went on Fox News again and showed everyone his text messages with a State Department official named Kurt Volker, who had instructed him to meet with Ukrainian officials.
What is the significance of these? And are you, Rudy, concerned that you're unnecessarily dragging, his name into this?
Who? Whose name?
Volker's name.
Well, yes, but
Volker.
He should step forward and explain what he did. The whistleblower falsely alleges that I was operating on my own. Well, I wasn't operating on my own.
I like that Rudy is trying to smear the whistleblower by pointing out the crimes they didn't report. The whistleblower says, I acted alone. Well, joke's on them. We had a whole team. It was like Ocean's 11, but if they were dumb and not handsome. Then Rudy literally pulled out his iPad, and read the text messages from Volker, the State Department official, telling him to meet with Ukrainian officials.
Well, here's Kurt. Here's Kurt saying, great, I will tell Yermak, and he'll visit with you there, thanks. Mr. Mayor, how was your meeting with Andre? Do you have time for a call? Best, Kurt. Now, they're all over me, asking me to do it. I was happy to do it.
Oh, my God, Rudy, you're literally reading evidence against yourself on national television. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but here's my best legal advice. Go back to sleep. There you go. Also, it's never good when a confused old man reads texts off his iPad. I mean, best case scenario, it's your grandpa asking you how to advance to the next level on Candy Crush. I want to buy more lives, but I keep accidentally taking pictures of myself. But the weirdest part was when Rudy was asked about Republicans like Utah Senator Mitt Romney, who had called the Ukraine accusations troubling and somehow ended up doing a bizarre impression of Al Gore.
One time, Bill Clinton asked me, what's this guy Romney like? You know what I told him? He's our Al Gore.
All right, Rudy, hold that thought.
What do you mean, hold that thought? That's not a thought, that's a spasm. I mean, look at him. It's like how your grandpa dances at a wedding. He looks like a guy who's duct taped to a chair trying to break free, which is probably something he's actually done, because I'm pretty sure after he does one of these interviews, the White House tries to duct tape him to a chair so he can't do another one. Gotta get out of here, Rudy! You gotta get loose! Gotta go back on TV and confess to crimes! Now, today we found out that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was himself on the call. These guys are all unraveling and pointing fingers at each other because everything's coming out now. For example, remember that infamous meeting Trump had with the Russians in the Oval Office in 2017? That was the meeting where he shared classified information and bragged about firing former FBI Director James Comey. Well, over the weekend, the Washington Post reported that during that meeting, Trump also told the Russians he didn't care that they'd interfered in the 2016 election, and then his aides tried to cover that up too. And then late this afternoon, we found out he also asked the Prime Minister of Australia to get involved.
President Trump has asked another foreign leader, this time it was the Prime Minister of Australia, to help investigate his conspiracy theories around the origins of the now complete, over and shuttered Mueller investigation. From that New York Times story, quote, President Trump pushed the Australian Prime Minister during a recent telephone call to help AG William Barr gather information for a Justice Department inquiry that Mr. Trump hopes will discredit the Mueller investigation.
It keeps happening. Trump tells a foreign country he either wants them to interfere in our elections or he doesn't care if they do, and then his aides tried to hide it. Honestly, I'm just shocked we didn't find out about it from a text message on Fox News. Rudy, I told the Russians I don't care if they interfere in our election. I also asked Australia to help us out, and I tried to bribe Ukraine. All of this is impeachable. Whatever you do, don't read this text message out loud on Fox News. You can tell impeachment is already having an impact because rather than sticking together and coming up with a coherent defense, Trump and his allies are running through the dumbest excuses and pointing fingers at each other. I don't know if this whole thing will end up with anyone getting taken away in handcuffs, but if it does, at least we know what that will look like. This has been A Closer Look.